The sterile white walls of the Galactic Medical Research Facility on Station Kepler 442 hummed with quiet efficiency. Dr. Nyla, a Xanthari xenobiologist with crystalline skin that refracted the overhead lights into rainbow patterns, stood before the examination table. Her 4 optical sensors focused intently on the specimen before her, or rather, what remained of it. "Begin recording," she commanded, her voice a melodic chime that the universal translator rendered into standard galactic common. The body on the table belonged to Kravik, a Thulnarian warrior whose species had dominated 3 star systems through sheer biological superiority. Their venom glands could paralyze prey within seconds, their exoskeletons deflected most conventional weapons, and their regenerative capabilities were legendary throughout the galaxy. Yet Kravik lay dead, killed by the most paradoxical species the Galactic Council had ever encountered: humans. Subject designation: Kravik 7749, Thulnarian male, age equivalent to 32 Earth years. Nyla spoke into the recorder. Cause of death: encounter with human specimen Brian Cortez during the incident on mining colony Epsilon 9. She had studied 17 species across 40 planets. But humans baffled her. They possessed no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no venom glands, no armored hide. Their sensory capabilities were mediocre at best. They were slow compared to Dracorians, weak compared to Goliath Prime natives, and their lifespan was a fraction of her own people's. And yet, they were terrifying. Beginning external examination, Nyla continued, her surgical tools hovering via magnetic suspension. Multiple fracture points across the carapace. Curious Thulnarian exoskeletons typically withstand forces exceeding 12,000 psi. She magnified the cracks spiderwebbing across Kravik's chest plate. The fracture patterns were inconsistent with weapons fire or explosive trauma. These were impact injuries, delivered with calculated precision to the weakest points of Thulnarian anatomy. Computer, pull up the engagement footage from Epsilon 9. A holographic display materialized, showing grainy security camera footage. Nyla watched as Kravik cornered Brian in a mining tunnel, venom glands visibly swelling in preparation for the kill. The human appeared unarmed, wearing only a standard mining exosuit. What happened next defied Nyla's expectations. Brian didn't run. Humans always ran in her simulations. That was their evolutionary advantage, wasn't it? Persistence hunting across vast distances? Instead, Brian smiled. Kravik lunged, mandibles spread wide to deliver a fatal strike. Brian sidestepped with minimal movement, using Kravik's momentum against him. In one fluid motion, the human grabbed a section of loose mining cable, wrapped it around Kravik's primary limb, and yanked. The Thulnarian's balance shifted. Before he could compensate, Brian drove his knee, reinforced by the exosuit's minimal power assist, directly into the joint weakness between Kravik's thorax and abdomen. The crack was audible even through the poor audio quality. Nyla paused the recording. She performed the calculations 3 times, certain she'd made an error, but the numbers didn't lie. Brian had identified Kravik's anatomical weakness in under 2 seconds and exploited it with surgical precision. Continuing internal examination, she said, making the first incision. What she found inside made her secondary lungs seize. Kravik's venom glands had ruptured not from external trauma, but from stress overproduction. His nervous system showed signs of catastrophic overload. Chemical analysis revealed massive concentrations of adrenaline-equivalent compounds far beyond normal combat levels. Computer, analyze temporal sequence of physiological responses. Data streamed across her display. Kravik's fear response had triggered 3.7 seconds before physical contact with Brian. Impossible. Thulnarians were apex predators. They didn't experience fear of prey species. But the evidence was irrefutable. Nyla pulled up Brian's psychological profile, obtained when he first arrived at Epsilon 9 6 months ago. Human, male, 28 years old. Former military designation, Marine Force Reconnaissance. Combat deployments, 7. Confirmed hostile engagements, classified. She dove deeper into human military history. something the Galactic Council had largely dismissed as primitive tribal warfare. What she discovered chilled her to her crystalline core. Humans didn't evolve venom glands because they didn't need them. They had evolved something far more insidious: pattern recognition and strategic thinking that bordered on precognition. Their brains consumed 20% of their body's energy, an absurd evolutionary investment that made no sense until you understood what it purchased. Humans could look at an opponent and see not what it was, but what it would become in the next 5 seconds. They read micro-expressions, body language, weight distribution, eye movement. They processed thousands of data points subconsciously and formulated countermeasures before their opponent had completed a thought. And then there was their other weapon: psychological warfare. Nyla pulled up, intercepted human military documents. Shock and awe, deterrence theory. The mere reputation of human soldiers had caused 3 different minor conflicts to resolve without bloodshed. Because humans had learned over millennia of warfare against their own kind that the most effective weapon wasn't the one that killed, it was the one that made the enemy too terrified to fight. Brian hadn't just killed Kravik, he'd made Kravik kill himself through fear. The mining tunnel encounter made sense now. Brian's smile wasn't bravado, it was a calculated psychological attack. Predators didn't smile before combat. Prey smiled when they knew something the predator didn't. That single expression had caused Kravik's threat assessment to spike, flooding his system with stress hormones that undermined his natural advantages. Supplemental findings. Nyla recorded, her voice unsteady. Human specimen Brian Cortez carried no weapons, yet achieved total combat superiority against a biologically superior opponent. Method: exploitation of opponent's own physiological systems against itself. She thought about the Galactic Council's ongoing debate about humanity's admission to the Federation. Many species argued humans were too weak, too fragile, too short-lived to contribute meaningfully. They were asking the wrong questions. The question wasn't whether humans had venom glands or natural weapons. The question was, how had humanity survived long enough to reach the stars when they spent most of their history fighting each other? The answer lay before her on the examination table. Humans were the venom. Their minds were weaponized through millions of years of competing against the most dangerous predator their planet had ever produced: other humans. They had turned psychological warfare, strategic deception, and adaptive learning into biological imperatives. Every human was born with the galaxy's most sophisticated threat assessment and neutralization system installed directly into their neural architecture. They didn't need venom glands to kill, they could simply convince your own body to do it for them. Nyla sealed her report and flagged it Priority Alpha for the Galactic Council. She attached a single recommendation: humanity's application for Federation membership should be approved immediately. Not because they are harmless, but because having them as allies is infinitely preferable to the alternative. As she powered down the examination theater, Nyla noticed a message waiting in her queue. It was from Brian Cortez, currently in Federation custody awaiting the inquiry results. It contained only 2 words: "Sorry, Doc." Somehow, that made it worse. The human had known exactly what she'd find during the autopsy. He'd known what conclusions she'd reach. He'd probably known it the moment Kravik attacked him in that mining tunnel, and he'd done it anyway. Dr. Nyla looked once more at Kravik's body and understood with crystalline clarity why every species in the galaxy should be grateful. Humans pointed their considerable talents toward exploration rather than conquest. Because when humans decided something was prey, the universe itself bent to make it so.